finally, an astral projection experience for you. Interesting. I didn't know how this would be accomplished this morning, but I had thought, and I believe that my guides, those around me, whatever you'd like to call them, my guardian angels accomplished it somehow, some way. It was very interesting because it wasn't the way I usually project. I didn't go through all of these different things you normally go through. I didn't hear the noise. I didn't even really feel the separation too much. Perhaps they just whisked me to another place. It was very interesting. I don't think I've had a similar astral projection experience, but there were a few things that made this very particular to being astral projection. But let me get to the experience for you. I've talked to you before, and I've mentioned this to people who have asked me about astral projection. I've talked about the fact that there are times when I don't even realize that I'm out of my body until I do something. And this was the case. I was lying down on my side, but I was in my astral form when I was doing it, and I didn't realize I was. I decided that I wanted to test something because I was like, well, I don't think I've accomplished this. Well, let me go back a few steps because I had wanted to experience something from my past and a family moment of some sort, perhaps. That's just what was in my mind. I wanted to go back through time and kind of see something from the family when I was little, just anything. And that's what I was thinking about in my mind. I thought, I don't know how that would be accomplished, but somehow it would be very interesting to be able to do that. So within probably minutes, yeah, it wasn't very long, I was still lying down. I was on my side, and it was darkness. And again, I didn't realize anything. In fact, I thought I was still lying down with my eyes closed thinking about these things. Then I raised my hand, I think it was my left hand, and without opening my eyes yet, I put my finger against the wall and I pushed, and my finger went through the wall. And I was like, oh my gosh, I am in astral form. How interesting. I don't think I've ever accomplished it quite this way before. So I rolled out of my bed, presumably. Now, for those of you, I'm sure there's a million questions. Everyone's asking a million questions about astral projection. They think about seeing their bodies. They think about, what does everything look like? I wasn't paying too much attention, and I didn't even really take time to see about a body or not, which was very interesting, about my body being asleep. That's why I'm telling you this was a different type of experience than I've had with astral projection. I knew I was out of my body, though. I did. I was in some other dimension of some kind, and I can't explain it to you. It was the astral plane, I guess. And within the astral plane, there are an infinite number of places you can be. And I was in one of those places that looked a lot like a room from my past. I wasn't sure. I used to live in Northern California, and my mom and I lived in an apartment, and my room was next to hers during that time. This was between the time I was maybe between 9 years old and about 21, 22 when I left out to come to Southern California. And I could hear my mom if I, listened. I remember this. So I believe I was in that room, but everything was bare. There was nothing there anymore. And interesting, there was a time I remember my mom was just actually telling me this when I had left from Northern California, had come out to Southern California. And I guess basically, she cleared out my room. Hey, I was gone. I'm not sure if that was during this time or who knows. I don't know. The astral plane is a very interesting place. There are a lot of different things. Since it's made up of many things, many times it's made up of things that you think. The astral plane is about thought. So who knows what my mind was seeing, how I was interpreting things, how my astral body was interpreting things. I'm not sure. I just knew that my mom's room was next door like it used to be. I mean, I live on my own now, so I don't live with my mom, but back then it was right next to her room. So I stood up and I started putting my finger again through the wall. Then I put all my fingers through the wall. And I remember so clearly when I did this. I remember that the wall, oh gosh, the solidness of the wall separated. So it wasn't like my finger was simply going through the wall. It was like the atomic structure of the wall, it would kind of part. Like I could see down to gosh, I don't know how to explain it to you. It was almost like gosh, oh gosh, it's so hard to explain. I'll just say that my hands were going through the wall. But, it's so funny because I hadn't ever paid too much attention of what happens to the wall when you put your fingers through. I'll just say this. In this particular experience, something did happen to the wall when I put my fingers through. And I found it to be very interesting. I was like, wow, I've never noticed that that's what happens. And then I decided to put my entire head, my face, everything through the wall. And my mother was lying down in her bed. There was a beautiful Christmas tree near her. And now, keep in mind, again, I don't know how all this stuff works. When we had Christmas before, my mother would always have the Christmas tree out in the living room. She never had it in her room. So somehow, some way, in this particular experience that I was having, the Christmas tree was in my mother's room, which was odd. And my mother was lying down and her eyes were closed. And the Christmas tree was beautiful. There were so many colors. If you can think of the most beautiful Christmas tree. Oh, and I'm sure there were gifts under it because when I was little, that was always the case. There were gifts. And I just took a moment and I said, hi, Mom. But I did this through, through my thoughts. So, I did this through my thoughts. I said, hello, Mom. And my mom said hi to me. And I believe she said, I think I may have asked, how is everything, going? How are you? There were more words that were exchanged between my mother and I in this, I believe, past of some sort. But I don't remember everything. I will say that, and it's almost because what I'm trying to do is translate it to you. Again, because I do speak another language, I understand that certain things don't translate. It's the same thing with trying to translate Spanish into English, English into Spanish. Sometimes these things don't translate. And I do believe that when you speak in thought, in the astral plane, there will be things that don't translate. And I think that there are things that just don't translate. There was a feeling of love and, of course, my appreciation for her being my mother. But I do remember kind of asking her or saying, I think I said something like, "You're not going to remember this, are you? You're not going to retain this." And she simply said, no, I'm not. But I'm okay. And I think there was something else. I think it was a feeling of, I'm not going to remember this, but that's okay. It was nice speaking with you. I pulled my head back and suddenly I was back in my body. So it was a brief experience. It was interesting. And I hope you enjoyed it. This was different. This was not the Beyond Body. I do believe this was an astral projection experience. And if you have any comments, feel free to leave them. Thank you so much for coming on another journey with me. And until next time, take care.